Just a quick note before we start today's episode. We've tried to report the facts as faithfully as we can, but The Hills is known for fabricating or editing storylines quite heavily, so take everything with a pinch of salt. Also, a lot of the drama that we referenced from outside the show was reported by tabloids, gossip sites and blogs, which may not have been entirely accurate at the time, and also may have even been wiped from the modern internet because this was 15 to 20 years ago. So just to be clear, this deep dive is for entertainment and opinion purposes only. And a final note, The Spills is in no way affiliated with The Hills. It's just a pop culture chat show which happens to be talking about The Hills in this episode. With that, I hope you enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to The Spills, a queer pop culture chat show from Gay Star News. My name's Helen Meriel Thomas, and today I'm joined by the beautiful, fantastic lifestyle journalist, Izzy Silvers.
Hi!
How's it going, Izzy?
It's good. How are you?
I'm great. We should say that we're friends because we both live in Zone 5.
We both live in Croydon, which people slate far too much.
Yeah.
It's a great place to live, aside from the stabbings.
It's quite far from Hollywood, which is where we're going today.
It is, but we're so close to Gatwick, so it's easy to get there.
Today we're discussing The Hills, Speidi in particular, and that is Spencer Pratt and Heidi Montag, the naughty's biggest villains.
I'm ready.
And we're going to decide if they were actually villains, if there were any other villains on The Hills. The ethics of the naughties. We're getting into body shaming. We're getting into fame seeking, the paparazzi, celebrity.
A lot.
It's 2025. Very tragically, there's been the awful fires in LA. And like a phoenix reborn out of the ashes, Heidi Montag's career is back.
Who knew?
Who knew? Because very, very sadly, her and Spencer lost their family house, their home in the Pacific Palisades fire. But this has led Spencer to take to TikTok and other social media platforms and be like, right, guys, if you want to support us, stream Superficial by Heidi Montag and all of her discography. And people are like, oh my God, like maybe we all slept on Heidi Montag. Is this good? And so Heidi is back, Spencer are back, and her album Superficial from 2010, it was when it was first fully released, because she sprinkled a few singles along the way. But 2010, it's formally released. Complete flop. She sold 1,000 copies, which, given how famous she was at the time,
It's not great.
is terrible. But Superficial is now at the top of the iTunes charts.
Number 1.
Numero uno. And hopefully it still will be by the time this comes out. But regardless, she did that. She wanted to be a pop star, and now she is. And Spencer, I have to pay him his dues. He is quite funny. He's changed his TikTok bio to like... famous celebrity and husband of a global pop superstar, which is very joking. Like, they are both very self-referential and self-aware, which I think is jokes.
I like that.
And I think that that's kind of the reason why they've come across as so likeable now. But this is why we're here. What the fuck is going on? How in 2025 do we feel like we're back in 2008?
I'm just hearing Natasha Bedingfield in the back of my brain.
Yeah, you're listening to Natasha Bedingfield. You think that you're in a movie. You're like, what the fuck is reality TV?
We're wearing vest tops layered over vest tops and fedoras.
Yes,
With
fedoras
ties?
are acceptable. With ties.
You could do a tie. Undone.
We're partying at Le Deux.
Le Deux.
Which is obviously not Les Deux, which is how it should be pronounced. But for some reason, we pronounce it as Les Deux.
Le Deux.
I would just like to start by taking you, Izzy, back to 2004.
I remember it well.
Actually, how old were you in 2004?
I was 12. I think I was 12. I was about to go to secondary school, or I was already in secondary school. I was living in Birmingham, 0121, where I'm from, and I was just having a great time. Okay. I don't think I had a lot on my mind at that point.
And had you heard of a show called Laguna Beach before?
No. I was a Hills girl who then went on to the city, who then went back to Laguna Beach, but I didn't start with Laguna.
I'm the same. When did you start watching The Hills?
I don't remember, but I just know I super wanted to be a journalist when I was younger. I really wanted to go into fashion. And so I watched every single show that was even remotely to do with fashion to like understand it. So that's why I was obsessed with The Hills, because obviously they worked at Teen Vogue. That's where I was obsessed with The City, because that's where it went up a notch. I watched like America's Next Top Model.
Right, so we're back in 2004. We're going to start this with Coloradan meets Angelino. So, The Hills debuted in 2006 on MTV as a spin-off of one of the first ever structured reality TV shows, 2004's Laguna Beach, The Real Orange County. And this was a cinematic TV show about real kids, but filmed like a drama. So there were static cams, there were no confessionals, there was heavy editing, and a light script to keep the storyline on track. So the kids of Laguna Beach, they were like aspirational.
Yes.
They lived by the sea. They were all really hot. And they were rich, they were
yeah.
tanned, they worked in surf shops, and they had little like love triangles. They went to prom. It was very like aspirational American teen lifestyle.
100%.
But they weren't wearing crazy outfits like on Nickelodeon, like they actually looked. They just wore head to toe Hollister instead. And so on The Hills, you followed Laguna star Lauren Conrad to LA as she tried to break into the fashion industry and moved in with her so-called best friend at the time, Heidi Montag.
Heidi. Heidi-ho.
So, question, Izzy.
Yes.
Do you know how Lauren and Heidi met? Because this is actually a good test.
Do I know how Lauren and Heidi met? Is it because they work together?
Nope. Because
I don't know.
If you've never seen Laguna and you go straight into watching The Hills, your first thought is, how the fuck are these two girls friends? Because they don't act like friends.
They live together, but...
They live together.
Yeah.
And they constantly talk about how, like, they're so close, they've known each other a long time, they're besties. But they had actually only met, like, relatively recently to the first season starting. Heidi is, like, the messy best friend, and Lauren is the good girl. Is the trope that the show portrays.
Because is Lauren the good girl? We'll come on to that.
We'll come on to that. And one of the sources for this episode was Spencer and Heidi's book, How to Be Famous, in which Heidi says that she calls herself one of the nicest people she knows. And basically, Heidi says that she actually is a good girl. She, quote, prays almost every day.
Famously Christians. Famously incredibly nice people.
Yeah, Christians have never done anything wrong.
Never.
And Heidi says that she is a good girl, and she basically put on the kind of bad girl character for the show so that she could be the foil to Lauren and stay relevant.
Okay.
So they meet at this in San Francisco, and then they transfer to LA, and this is where we start The Hills. So The Hills never really explains why they're friends. There's no exposition on The Hills. You're just in medias res in this quite shit-looking apartment, which suddenly magically transforms to a much nicer apartment, even though they say it's the same apartment a few sort of episodes or seasons down the line. And already from episode 1, Heidi is the frenemy, because she basically forces her way into the Teen Vogue party, which Lauren has asked her not to go to.
I would be fuming.
I would.
If a friend of mine came to an event that this was a professional event for me, I would be fuming.
Yep.
Fuming.
And that is obviously what the cameras want you to feel. So between seasons 1 and 2, Heidi meets LA boy Spencer Pratt, a wannabe reality star who had just filmed a TV show called Princes of Malibu with his buddy Brody Jenner, who was Caitlyn Jenner and Linda Thompson's son, the stepson of David Foster, who, as we know from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, is Yolanda Foster's future husband. And that also means that he's Kendall and Kylie's half-brother. And because of the Yolanda Foster connection, that also means that he is the step-brother of Gigi Hadid and Bella Hadid.
The franchises are franchising because he was on Hills, Kardashians, Housewives. He was around. They were all around.
And so you've got to think, if you put yourself in Spencer Pratt's shoes for 1 second, this is the world he grew up in. And then that Spencer Pratt called himself on Princess of Malibu, hilariously, Brody Jenner's like manager. But the funny thing about Princess of Malibu is that Spencer, in episode 1, in the intro, David Foster narrates that he considers Spencer like a Weasley man and a bad influence. But the irony is that Spencer's actually the creator and executive producer of Princess of Malibu.
Of the show?
Yeah.
So you're saying that he potentially painted himself in allowing that voiceover to call him Weasley?
I'm saying that Spencer has always wanted to be the villain. Well, or at least Spencer has always been in situations where he's portrayed himself as a bad boy. And that is kind of what he has grown up around. And also that was a mentality that he went into when he went from Princess of Malibu to the Hills. He was like, I go far by playing the naughty boy. Probably because he does have a bit of that in him. But like he never sought out to be the good boy protagonist. He wanted something different.
It's interesting what you were saying about choices, because sometimes when you look at these reality shows, right, you look at a lot of the UK ones and US ones, I guess, like Love Island, etc., etc. These are quote unquote regular people, normal people who come from financially average backgrounds. We're saying Spencer comes from a well-off background. Heidi, again, I'm making an educated guess, comes from quite a well-off family.
Well, Heidi is an interesting one.
Or does she?
So Heidi came from a small town called Crested Butte in Colorado. Which is a ski resort.
Where we see her go back later on.
We see her go back. We see her go back. And her mother had a restaurant. We're going to get into this later in the episode. But her mother had a restaurant which wasn't doing so well after the financial crisis. And she didn't have that much money. So I think she's kind of like middle class. And MTV...
I'm seeing a plot come together.
MTV, in Spencer's words, were like handing her checks for $30,000. Her restaurant's failing. What's she gonna do? She's gonna film for MTV, as I think we all would. This is Spencer. He's come from LA. He's surrounded by future reality TV stars and already big reality TV stars. This is the world he's come from. Sean Travis was an executive producer of Princess of Malibu, who went on to executive produce The Hills. Spencer asks if he can join the cast of The Hills, because The Hills is blowing up by this point. It's season 1, but already it's huge. When he said no, Spencer and Brody started deliberately going to LA nightclubs to try and meet girls from the cast.
So Brody wasn't on the show at this point?
No. They joined together at the same time. In season 2.
I'm loving this.
Since recording this episode, we found out that the writer of this profile, Mitchell Sunderland, was fired from Vice in 2017 for inappropriate conduct involving suggesting stories to alt-right commentator Milo Yiannopoulos. We just wanted to acknowledge that and put it on the record. According to a 2016 Vice profile of the couple, which is one of our main sources for this discussion, Heidi first saw Spencer in the nightclub Privilege, surrounded by playmates, Playboy models, and she said, I was like cartoon goo-goo eyes, heart falling out of my head. Within a few days, I pretty much told everyone I was going to marry him and that I loved him, and everyone thought I was crazy. And this is, again, part of the defense of Heidi, if you can call it a defense. Head over heels, love at first sight. And that, I think, is something Heidi has been very clear that she always has wanted to choose, is love. Another question, is it creepy to purposefully seek out the star of a reality show in nightclubs?
So my head says, no, there's nothing wrong with that. But that is very contingent on the person, whoever it is, coming to the club, we all found, that they back off if the person of their interest isn't showing them any back. You, as a woman, it can be, if a man was kind of coming into the club, or where am I these days? I'm not at the club. Into the coffee shop and kept showing up, but didn't ever speak to me. I think you have to make your move and then move on.
Yeah, don't be voyeuristic about it.
Yeah.
It's like if you purposefully went to raffles to see Made in Chelsea cast, which I'm sure many people did.
It's creepy.
But Heidi's into it. And I think it's probably worth pointing out as well that Heidi at this point is like 20, 21.
She's so young.
She's very young.
You've moved to this whole new city, like we don't know we will never know definitively what her motives are, but she's trying to get, be in this life, be in this cast, like make friends with everyone. She's,
Be a star.
Be a star.
And she already is. thrust into a world, and and then we'll get onto this, but this is another element is Heidi, by the point that Heidi becomes friends with Lauren, the concept of a reality star has kind of been born.
Yeah.
When Lauren entered this world, she was kind of going in blind. And she didn't necessarily know what she was consenting to when she was 16 and cast on this new concept of new TV concept. Whereas when Heidi goes in and Spencer go in, it's a kind of established thing.
And it's also, as we see with Heidi, it's a time when everyone is the media, was social media around at that point? Wasn't quite yet around at that point, but maybe the beginning.
Just beginning, and that is part of the plot as well.
Yeah, and you've got everyone suddenly becoming very critical, really in your business, like having an opinion on your boyfriend, having an opinion on your friend, having an opinion on your relationship. She's 20, like she's very young, and you can't, not that it's an excuse, but that can't be a reason for your behavior your whole life. We're not young our whole lives. We learn. Yeah. Heidi has an arc. But at this point, when she meets Spencer, she might just really fancy this guy and think, great, like I love him and I can make this work. I can get famous. Exactly. Why wouldn't you?
So now to go back to the story. So they meet in the club and they start dating. After some blowing hot and cold, they did eventually get together. At which point, Heidi and Spencer say that Lauren resented how much time the pair spent together. According to Speidi, there was one Valentine's Day when Lauren and Heidi had a huge fight because having gone clubbing that night, Heidi wanted to leave at 3 a.m. to see Spencer. Lauren said that she only wanted a roommate who would actually be there, and Heidi decided to move out soon after this conversation.
And Lauren did say that, so that's not kind of an alleged thing from Speidi. She said that on air, and when I was watching that episode again, it was giving jealous. I don't know. It was giving, would you not, there's so much to say about this because obviously Lauren had her own feelings about Spencer, but the way that she was talking to Heidi was quite harsh and
very icy.
And there's a way to speak to your friend. You can be like, hey, I'd really love to spend more time with you. You're seeing so-and-so a lot, but I wonder if we could make some time together. No, Lauren wasn't doing that. She was like, you're wrong. I hate you, basically. Go see Spencer then. So, I don't know.
So this tension, as you've alluded to, is basically the whole plot of season 2, episode 6, You Have Chosen.
You've chosen. She's chosen. They've all chosen.
In this episode, Lauren is mad because Heidi keeps hanging out with Spencer and not making time for her.
Yeah.
But part of Lauren's defense, this is also because an episode ago, Heidi's complaining about Spencer and the fact that he had also gone on a date with Audrina and things like that. So,
which is wild. Can you imagine Audrina and Spencer together now?
I know. But Spencer says that they literally went on sort of one manufactured date. And so this is the context. And I've just pulled out a few quotes from this episode. Lauren to Brody. I would never, ever choose a guy over a friend. Later that episode, Heidi says, I'm like the happiest I've ever been in my life. She's 20.
These accents are giving.
She's just met the man of her dreams. And Heidi is happy because it's, skippity skip, la la, that new relationship feeling. So basically, is Lauren being fair?
I don't think Lauren's being fair because, again, there's a way to say things. And, she was talking to Brody. We've all got a vent. We all say stuff differently to other people than to the person's face.
Sorry, just a side note on this. One thing that haunts me about reality TV, imagine if every time you vented or bitched about someone,
they could just watch it straight away. This is what blows my mind as well, that people now in 2025, people still chat as if it's not going to be seen around the world on TV. Yeah. And then they still go and lie. And it's like, we are all going to see this. Yeah. 100%. But the thing with Lauren was like, if I wasn't getting on with my best friend, I wouldn't be happy. So Heidi's just supposed to ditch her man to please you. It doesn't make sense because I don't believe that Lauren would do the same. With Jason. It didn't play out in that same way. And again, like, we've all been in situations where we've hated our friends' boyfriends. I hated my best friend's ex-boyfriend. She now knows I love her fiancé. Love you, Troy. There's just no way I would expect her to ditch him to make me happy. The reason I want her to ditch him is because he was disgusting and because he's not good for you. It's not to make me happy.
Right.
So
But it is the tricky thing of, you know, if your friend is dating someone that you think is abhorrent,
yeah.
how far can you take your complaint, basically?
Maybe Lauren had good intentions. Maybe she did.
And she is also about 21 in this scenario.
She's young too. But it was just very much, if you don't break up with him to make me happy, I won't be your friend. Even though she said earlier in the episode, we're never going to not be friends. I'll always be your friend. I'll be here for you to pick up the pieces when he cheats on you.
So aggressive.
It's too intense. And that's not a good way for a friend to take that. If you started saying that to me about my imaginary boyfriend, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, I must break up with him immediately.
Yeah.
There's a way to talk to people.
Especially in the honeymoon phase, you're not gonna be listening to all that.
No.
Meanwhile, Spencer was trying to promote Heidi to the show's A-plot with, quote, Operation Upstage Elsie. This is a quote from the Vice article. Lauren also didn't like that Spencer would call paparazzi on the pair of them, which Spencer tried to explain is common practice for celebrities. Remember, LA boy.
It is.
Spencer said, I was treating the show like a producer because I literally just made a show on Fox, Spencer explains. I didn't know how to be on-camera talent. And this is when he and Heidi decided to start brainstorming storylines to make themselves the villains. According to Speidi, Lauren really didn't like this. She was like, it's my show, my world, Heidi says. She didn't like someone coming in and changing up the formula because it was her world and she wanted it to stay that way.
Kristen.
Basically, it's a little bit rich. But then maybe things happened that weren't even reported. And I think that this is another part of the problem is that Lauren is clearly a very boundaried person, which I think I really respect.
Yeah, it's hard to do that.
But pitting that against this clearly very unboundaried couple that they're like, this is a job. This is a job. Our job is to create drama. We will provide the drama.
Yeah.
Whereas Lauren's very much like, clearly, I mean, just based off what we know.
Yeah.
If I'm not cool with something, I'm not going to let it happen. And so that's where this tension really comes from. Summarizing points, you think that basically up until the point between season 2 and season 3, we're kind of not even necessarily full team Heidi, but we're sympathetic to Heidi.
It's just it is what it is.
Yeah.
I think at this point, I would say if we're on the pendulum, I'm swinging more towards Speidi. Doesn't mean I'm against Lauren. I just think that she was quite harsh. I think it forced Heidi into an uncomfortable position where maybe she was staying with Spencer despite everything to prove that, you know, this was her guy and she was right. Equally, is it right to fake all this drama for TV? No, but do we watch it and love it? Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm more towards Speidi until.
So, part 2, the rumour, the breakup.
Da, da, da.
Now, it's April 2007, and Perez Hilton publishes a blog on his gossip site. So we've actually decided not to read out Perez's blog post about Lauren as it seemed disrespectful. But the summary is that he alleges Lauren has a sex tape with her ex Jason Waller, which Lauren has always strenuously denied. He also alleges that Lauren has been trying to get it off him unsuccessfully and ends by quoting a source who says they've seen the video, who makes extremely derogatory and misogynistic remarks about her private parts, which are later repeated multiple times in a blog post written by Spencer Pratt in August that year.
There's nothing inherently wrong about filming a video with anyone, your partner or otherwise. Nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is leaking it without everyone's consent. Number 2, it's nobody's business to be commenting on her vagina, on her body at all.
Yeah.
Nobody's business. So again, my pendulum, it's not even swung from Speidi yet, but it's also back here with Lauren because that's a horrible thing to happen. But equally, the shame that she's feeling is societal. And there's no shame in having sex, guys.
Yeah.
We all do it, unless
Or
you're
filming it.
asexual, yeah.
And I think this is a big core part of the discussion because this is like, obviously horribly shaming from all angles.
Yeah.
It's like naughties, slut shaming to the max.
It's catnip for tabloids.
Yeah.
It's like everything. And Perez Hilton, all those gossip bloggers in America. Yeah. It has everything you want, like the downfall of a good girl.
At this time, even though it did help sort of launch the career of like Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian, it is like basically revenge porn.
Yeah.
And that's without even having any proof that it exists.
So are they saying that someone leaked it to them, or is it just that it exists?
It exists.
And that Jason won't give it back, allegedly?
Yeah, and what her private parts look like.
Yeah.
Which is obviously like horrifying and unfair on Lauren. And it's hard to like minimize like in the year of our Lord Jesus Christ 2025, everyone's got an OnlyFans. And so that aspect of the story wouldn't be the most shaming part probably, but
I
in
think,
the
but you know
naughties,
what? I think it
be.
still might have been, because still the amount of shame that people put on sex workers, on people with OnlyFans accounts, on people, just women in general who show their body, the amount of shame that is put on them. But everyone's quite happy to enjoy that content and enjoy the way someone looks and enjoy the way someone, you know, uses their body. But it's still shameful to do it. So even now, I still think it would be... I think Lauren might have had more support and feel more confident to push back.
Yeah.
But at that time, of course, and again, they're still so young.
Lauren thinks that the rumours come from Speidi.
Yes.
And I think that if this was now, MTV would have to immediately freeze them out of the show while they conduct a formal investigation, because it is, you know, it's kind of, it's sexual harassment. It's like horrible. So the whole situation would be conducted so differently now. So Lauren immediately denies the rumours, both on her website and in an interview with Us Weekly a few days later. The day after Perez's blog, TMZ reports that a rep for SugarDVD.com was approached by a third party claiming to have the tape and offered $500K, sight unseen.
Sight unseen. It's giving Love is Blind.
This is the madness of like naughty sex tapes.
Yeah.
That they're like, here's $500,000. We don't even care what's in it. It stars Lauren Conrad.
Yeah.
So we want it. If it even fucking exists. And then, according to the Sugar DVD source, Waller's manager would neither confirm nor deny that there was a tape. In the Us Weekly interview, sources close to Lauren insinuate that Heidi and Spencer are to blame. In a request for comment, they deny spreading the rumours. It's sad someone would make up something like that, and even sadder people think that we had anything to do with it, says Spencer. I feel horrible for Lauren, but I had nothing to do with spreading that false, disgusting rumour, Heidi said.
I have so many thoughts, because also, what's disgusting about the rumour? The disgusting thing is commenting on her body and saying horrible things about her body. It's not disgusting that she made a sex tape.
Well, no, there's like nothing wrong with, you know, if you're both over 18 and consenting and like, they're relatively sober, then it's like all good. But yeah, it's the shame of releasing without the consent, and the comment on the body is like, I actually remember a comment of a similar nature going around my school when I was like 13, 14. And the amount of like horrible crying shame I felt. Because at that time as a girl, that was like the most heinous crime as having a vagina. And yeah, labia do stick out sometimes. And it is what it is.
All shapes and sizes.
They do, and they're all beautiful. So we're going to do a bit of quote analysis.
Okay.
So this all blows up in the season 3 premiere, You Know What You Did.
You know what you did.
Exactly.
You know.
In which Lauren accuses Heidi of spreading the rumour at Frankie's birthday.
I remember it well.
So Lauren, you know I am mad at you. Heidi, why? Why? Lauren, you know what you did. You know what you did. Heidi, what did I do? What did I do? Audrina, Heidi, you're brainwashed. You're a different person now. Heidi, you guys are crazy. Audrina, yes, you're crazy. Heidi, what did I do? What did I do? Lauren, you guys are sick people. Heidi, what did we do? Lauren, What did you do? What did you do? Heidi, what did we do? Lauren, you started a sick little rumor about me. Heidi, I didn't start any rumor about you. Lauren, oh really? Nothing? Heidi, no. Lauren, you're a sad, pathetic person. And I'm going to note here as well, that is probably the most emotive scene we ever see of Lauren. I think that's the realest you ever see Lauren.
What about
in
that
the
single
entire show.
mascara tear?
Well,
What episode was that?
that's when she's having drama with Lo and Audrina, but
Okay, fair.
irrelevant to this story.
The thing is, again, right, we know, it's kind of like the traitors at this point, because we know that Heidi and Spencer are trying to get storylines. So whether or not they started the rumour, the way Heidi spoke to Lauren didn't feel, in that argument, didn't feel super genuine, super sorry. They're saying that these guys were friends, and the whole time this has been going on, Heidi hasn't once called or messaged and been like, hey, hope you're okay. So there's all of that. And then the way Heidi's like, what did I do? What did I do? She's not like,
it's gaslighting.
What did I do? And so it's kind of like, did they start the rumour, or were they just like, this is great? Like, we can say we didn't start it, but make everyone think we started it. We'll never know. We'll never know what actually happened.
There's actually a lot in the 2009 book, How to Be Famous by Heidi and Spencer.
And what did she say? She said she didn't start it.
Well, what Heidi had to do with it is unwritten. There's a chapter in the 2009 book, How to Be Famous by Spencer Pratt, titled, I Did It.
Who was that guy? The hugely famous guy, O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
He wrote that whole book, If I Did It, and explained exactly it. Please. Okay.
So, I did it. That's right, I did it. Well, I sort of did it. And don't pretend you don't know what it is. If there is one thing that I've been most famously accused of, it is spreading the rumour that my nemesis had a certain piece of video footage of themselves.
He's a #1 hater, and I love it.
And he's still hating.
I love it.
Right. It's spreading the rumour that my nemesis had a certain piece of video footage of themselves that they'd rather not have become public. Well, guess what? It was me. Now, before I say another word, let me be very clear here. This footage absolutely 100% existed. I didn't make it up. Like I said, I'm not a bad guy. I'm just a bad guy. I knew about this for months before I said anything, and I really had no intention of ever talking about it. It sounded like pretty boring footage to me, actually. But when said nemesis attacked Heidi and tried to make her out to be something that she wasn't, remember, season 2 of The Hills, Heidi's kind of being portrayed as like the bad one, while Lauren's the good girl. Classic, same as season 1, really. But when said nemesis attacked Heidi and tried to make her out to be something that she wasn't, well, that was no good with me. So all I had to do was attack my nemesis's identifiable trait, in this case, the goody two-shoes, boring as vanilla sweetheart. And it wasn't really that hard, actually. The fact that the tape existed had long been reported by TMZ. No one really cared, though. Then later he adds, it was the smartest thing I ever did. Heidi and I got tied to the storyline for good when that happened. The entire show for the next 2 years hinged on us versus her.
So then it's like, can we hate this small ranch mountain girl, wherever she's from? Can we hate Heidi?
In Colorado.
Of course, of course. Can we hate her for something that she didn't do? But I think we can, because, and I'll tell you why, because I think whether or not you stay with your partner is a slightly different conversation, but the way she acted in public is not something I can get behind, in terms of, she was like, what do we do, denying it, whereas you can say, he was wrong and I've told him that, but I'm going to stick with him. So I think we can be annoyed at her for that. And him!
Oh, God.
And Perez! And TMZ at this point.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think that it's not something someone would consider spreading a rumour about in 2025. Because A, it wouldn't be considered as shameful, or at least not in the same way. loads of reality stars have an OnlyFans, actually. So in that sense, it wouldn't be... I think that he knows he would be cancelled, properly cancelled, like lose his spot on the show if you did it in this year.
He might lose his spot on the show. I don't know if he would be cancelled.
I mean, what's his name? Stephen Bear?
Oh, God. Yes.
But he's...
look at these men. Look at all of them. I don't think... He would go off, he would do a Russell Brand, he would go with his crystals and religion and, you know, I've become a new person. So I don't think he would be cancelled.
He would just develop a new alt-right following.
Yeah, he'd just have to shift to the right.
Do you think that it's an adequate defence, them saying that the tape is real? Which, again, Lauren says it's not.
Oh, this is tough. Because
it wasn't as... The conversation about, like, revenge porn and stuff didn't exist, and body shaming wasn't the same then, which I'm not saying that what he did is okay, but he was participating in a system that was sort of tolerated of men at the time, that I would like to think, you know, if this happened to someone on, like, Real Housewives or something, you would like to think they'd be kicked off the show, although people say some pretty outrageous stuff on that show.
I think that it is still wrong of him to say it because the intention with which he said it was not, whoa, have you seen Lauren's got a sex tape? As in, like, good for her, go girl. He was, like, you know, shaming her for doing it, saying she was bad at it anyway, that it was pretty vanilla. So his intentions behind it were bad. No matter how empowered we all may be and feel, I'm sure that when something is spoken about without your consent, no matter how much you stand behind it, you can still feel that it takes a minute to break through that shame to get to a place where you're like, no, actually, I didn't do anything wrong. So I still think they're wrong.
If you had been on national TV having a bit of an icy few weeks with your best mate, and then their boyfriend was like, no, I'm going to stand up for my woman by spreading a horrible rumour about you.
I'm going to repeat myself. I would be fuming.
And you would never talk to that friend again if she chose to stay with him through that?
I would have to think about it. Because Lauren's brand with her headbands, her little headbands, those elastic ones, was very good girl. And this is not... She's a celebrity, right? So you're now damaging her image as well. Again, not that they should, but brands might not want to work with her because, oh my God, she had sex. Like, so if you're damaging her income... I've completely forgotten the question. I'm so incensed about this.
Basically, like, do you think that Lauren... Because this is the reason that Lauren breaks up with my friend. And Lauren even says in, I think, a couple episodes later, she's like, Heidi, sometimes if you do something or you do nothing, it's the same thing. Basically saying, I don't care whether or not you spread the rumour. The fact is you've stayed with the guy who... at least Lauren thinks, did spread the rumour. Oh, well, and Spencer says
he did spread
the rumour. So I think that...
That's the thing. I think
I kind of am on her side.
You can stay with your man, whatever.
Yeah.
Not whatever, but in this situation. But if you haven't publicly said, no, I don't agree with this, you are co-signing. It's like the way we're looking at the designers who are dressing the new president and first lady. I think you're co-signing their behaviour if you're giving them clothes to wear. And so I do think you're co-signing it. And so that's on you as a friend. So that's on Lauren to decide whether or not she wants to stick with Heidi or cut her out. And I think Lauren's in the right if she wants to cut her out at this point.
Yeah. And it is pretty crazy that Heidi did choose Spencer. And I think in 2025... I'd like to think that Heidi would know that it would affect her career to stand by Spencer, but people do strange things in relationships.
Oh, it's so hard because it goes into... It's all because Heidi's a woman as well at the end of the day. Like,
it's so interesting. And this is the end of Heidi and Lauren having any semblance of a friendship anymore. And at this point, I have to say, I have to side with Lauren, because I think she's just a boundaried person.
Yeah.
And Heidi's violated one of her boundaries and not really apologised for it.
She didn't apologise, yeah.
And so this concludes part 2, the rumour, the breakup. And we're going to get to part 3 and 4 in the next episode.
I don't want to wait.
You're going to have to wait, Izzy. So thank you very much for joining us on part 1 of our deep dive into whether Speidi were really the villains. This has been The Spills. I've been Helen Meriel Thomas. Thank you so much, Izzy Silvers.
Thank you.
And we'll see you for the next episode where we get into some decision making. Yeah, crystals, plastic surgery.
Get ready.
All right, we'll see you next time.